For more on this story, we can go across to Sharon Gaffney covering the story for us at the National Assembly. Sharon, talk us through the timing of this bill, because it comes 4 months after school teacher Samuel Paty was beheaded on his way home. This after he showed students in his class caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad, and it comes a year before the presidential elections in 2022.
Yes, Delana. Well, this legislation has been hugely controversial here in France before it was even published. It was announced by Emmanuel Macron back at the start of October, when he said specifically that his government would be bringing forward a new law that targeted what he described as Islamist separatism. As you say, nowhere in the text of the actual legislation do either of those two words appear, but the legislation has drawn much heated debate in terms of arguments from both the right and the left. On the right, deputies here in the National Parliament say the legislation is too vague, that it doesn't go too far, it just doesn't go far enough. Whereas deputies and commentators on the left say that it's deliberately stigmatising Muslims. Now, you will remember, as you say, back last August, we had, of course, the brutal beheading of Samuel Paty, school teacher who was killed by an extremist in a suburb northwest of Paris. We also had a deadly attack that claimed the lives of 3 people outside a church in Nice. Now, this legislation, it was already being spoken about and it was already planned before those particular tragedies and other extremist incidents that we had here in France last year. But really what happened was, with the killing of Samuel Paty and with various attacks, there was a renewed focus on secularism here in France. It triggered really a renewed public debate. Now, the law itself, Macron has a large working majority here in the Parliament. There will be a vote at about 5:45 this evening, but the legislation is expected to be passed. Another criticism that people are levelling at the President, and also we've heard it here in the Parliament while this bill was being debated. A lot of people say, particularly on the left, that this bill, it's too vague, it's really simply just window dressing, that it won't actually make much of a practical difference, and that really what Macron wants to do is he's trying to position himself and his government more to the right ahead of the presidential elections next year. That was a criticism we saw also of Macron and his government. Before Christmas, you will remember the global security bill that was passed by the Assembly before Christmas. That's due to be back in the Senate next month. But that's among the concerns that people have with this bill, that it's also a clampdown on civil liberties here in France.
Sharon, thank you very much for that. Sharon Gaffney reporting there from the National Assembly.